Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're going to be ranking all 18 available characters in the Transcend Selector that should be hitting people's inboxes in just a few short days to set us up for the Black Friday sales. Now, we're still doing the D-Day event stuff, so you're logging in, you're getting Odin's Blessings chest, etc. But that final day when you get that Transcended Selector, you have then 7 days to choose one of the following characters down below. So I'm going to rank all of them from sort of like best to worst, but not exactly, in order for you to get as much information as possible so you can make the best decision possible. So we're going to be renaming these tiers here. We have DPS, which I will explain what that means in just a second if you do not know what the acronym stands for. We have support AC. We have could get lucky, and no, I'm not talking about you under the mistletoe. And then we have leader, not deleter. Okay, so from top to bottom, here we go. DPS stands for damage per second, and it's an MMORPG term to basically describe characters and how much damage they can do per second. And so you can sort of see a hierarchy, or sort of like a timeline of characters, and the ones with the highest DPS are going to be on one side, and the ones with the lowest DPS are on the other side. So, you know, tanks and support type characters in traditional MMORPGs would be on that lower end of DPS, and then of course, you know, berserkers, assassins, etc. would be on that higher end of DPS. So it's pretty clear, but there aren't that many DPS characters in this list. Hopefully that doesn't come as a surprise to you, but Moon Knight is by far the best DPS character in the game. That is very clear considering he is the only one that can be tier 4, and so that gives him a much higher window. But even if you just take him up to level 72 or then 80 with the newest uniform, he is, you know, tremendously good. Overshadowed by other combat types, but specifically when ranking amongst transcended characters, he beats them all. So that's an example of a DPS. We're going to fill out the rest of the list, but I just wanted to give you an example there. Support type characters very clearly have a support feature. Now, there are very few support type characters here since I'm separating supports from leaderships. So a great example of a support who could also be a leadership, but we're going to put her here for support, is Sif, because with her newest uniform, and you have to buy this uniform, then you can use the support buff, which gives all allies increased boss damage and all speed. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I can buy the uniform, but I can just keep Sif at tier 2. That's absolutely true. The Transcendent Selector would be to allow you to bring Sif into Dormammu GBR, World Boss Legend, and content like that, where it's gated by being tier 3 or Transcended. AC is the acronym we give for Alliance Conquest characters. So these are characters who are not good in the 1v1 PvP of Timeline Battle, but they can still be useful to your roster for something like Alliance Conquest. I want to highlight this content a little bit more than I have been, because up until now, essentially, I haven't been highlighting it at all. So I'm not trying to overemphasize Alliance Conquest and encourage everyone to go and play it, but I do recognize that there are players who enjoy it and play it, and it does add an additional layer of depth to character analysis, because otherwise I would put Heimdall in the leader position, and although his leadership is pretty good, it's like all defense and ignore dodge, it's not bad at all, he has even more value in the AC slot, especially if you were able to get his artifact. So I would put sort of the character's best use rather than just one of their uses, and so that's why we have to highlight AC here. Could get lucky is a bit complicated, so we'll leave that to the end. And then leader is just, they're only good for their leadership. That's it. So a perfect example of this is Elsa Bloodstone. She's only good for her leadership. Now, you could argue that she could get lucky with a uniform in the future, especially if you watched Werewolf by Night, but for the time being, we're going to put her in the leader position so that she can illustrate what a leader is, a character that buffs other characters based on their leadership ability. So now that we have that out of the way, we're going to add in the rest of the characters here. As far as the leadership goes, there aren't actually that many other good leaderships, but the thing is, these other characters don't really have anywhere else to call home. Bullseye is not a good transcended character, but he's a 50% ignore dodge leadership, and you can also flexibly switch him between a speed and a combat villain uniform to give you even more flexibility for something like World Boss Legend. So that's where his value comes into play, but generally speaking, I've listed them in terms of value from top to bottom. So just to make that clear, I do think that the characters in the could get lucky category have a little bit more value than the characters in the leader position. And of course, I think the AC characters have a bit more value than these lucky ones. Supports have more value than AC. And then DPS have by far the most value. There are some, there are some exceptions, which I'll point out, but by and large, that is the plan there. Rounding out the leaderships, we just have Red Guardian, not Red Hulk. Red Guardian and Iron Fist. Iron Fist gives a buff to all defenders. Not very good. It's also a self-buffing lead, but yeah, it's a leadership. Not much else that he's going to be good for. I guess you could argue AC, but I'd rather just put him here. But it's honestly it's a coin toss. It's a toss-up. For Red Guardian, he does have the HP leadership, which you can use to buff your Hulk in both leader, like hero content and villain content, because you can equip or unequip his uniform to turn him into a combat villain or a combat hero. So that is some nice flexibility to pair with your Hulk, which does make him a worthwhile lead to consider. Definitely more so than Iron Fist. Iron Fist is like a very distant fourth on this ranking here of these three characters. And honestly, I would say that they probably both have more value overall than Elsa, because Elsa is just a 30% physical damage lead. It's really not that special. These are a bit more specialized and a bit better for specific content in the game with specific characters. As far as the could get lucky goes, let's cover this now. These are basically characters that you're hoping to see a Hail Mary for. They're not good characters. They're not worth transcending because they can be useful in content, but they could be getting something in the future that could make them good. That's essentially all this is. It's a Hail Mary for the future. I would not suggest getting any of these characters from your Transcended Selector until you have gotten most, if not all, of the characters in the previous three categories, and you either have gotten the leader characters or you already have other leaderships that you can use that are useful, right? Like if you're saying to yourself, well, I'm having a hard time with Null, World Boss Legend, or other World Boss Legends because I don't have any Ignore Dodge strikers, then pick up Bullseye and use his leadership for 50% Ignore Dodge. Better do that than to take a flyer on one of these characters here, hoping and crossing your fingers that they get a uniform. Because we all know what happens when I tell everyone to get a uniform for a character that I think is happening, and then it doesn't happen, and then everyone blames me, and then it's all anarchy, right? Not that that's actually happened, just that I'm pointing it out. So yeah, why I put Shadow Shell and War Tiger here right away is because of Blue Dragon and Sunbird. They both got uniforms and they both got upgrades. Blue Dragon with the tier 4. So I could definitely see the devs revisiting the Warriors, the Warriors of the Sky, the Warriors 4, in order to finish the job, right? Because Shadow Shell and War Tiger are sort of just standing in the corner like, are we supposed to join you guys? And Blue Dragon's like battling it out for best blast tier 4, and Sunbird's like, yeah, I'm useless, but I revive her, so that's good enough. But yeah, I do genuinely think that they could be getting something in the next like 6 months. I know I've been saying that for like 3 months, 2 months, but yeah, it's still my opinion. I still got to hold on to it, and then, you know, either sail it into the sky or crash it into the ground. As far as the rest of could get lucky, I'm just going to put the other characters who basically don't fit anywhere else. And that's essentially Red Skull, Spider-Gwen, and Amadeus Cho. So basically, you can reread this list of 5 here as characters who are almost useless on your roster. Unless you're a brand new player and you can make some use out of, let's say, War Tiger's cooldown leadership and the auto healing that he has, or Shadow Shell's accumulation, which is like Sharon Rogers. But even still, you're much better off just getting one of these other characters and then getting their uniform to have a massive boost. There is something to be said about the value that Shadow Shell and War Tiger bring without a uniform, because literally every other character on this list needs a uniform besides Elsa, whose uniform costs gold, but she sucks. However, I don't think that's enough to recommend War Tiger and Shadow Shell. I think there are enough good characters that you can get immediately, like M'Baku and stuff like that, that it doesn't really make sense as a new player to pick up either Shadow Shell or War Tiger from the Transcended Selector, and that's why I'm comfortable putting Red Skull, Cho, and Spider-Gwen here. They're basically not going to do much for your roster unless you have a stacked roster, in which case, knock yourself out. So then we're left with these 6 here. Now, the one that I want to cover first is AC, just because we're going up the list. So we're going to put Luke Cage and Jessica Jones here. Luke Cage, very good character for PvP still. Has some use in timeline battle as well, but I'm going to highlight his value for AC because it's a little bit easier when you can choose opponents and you can choose to fight against teams that have a lot of physical damage. You can exploit that with his physical reflect. Jessica Jones is not an option that you want to consider unless you've already invested in Luke Cage and maybe Daredevil. She pairs so well with the two of them on a triple defenders team, and I've made multiple videos about this, but she is not a good standalone. So I almost hesitate to put her here in support, but it's really only for Luke Cage. But she does pair well with him for AC, especially considering that they both have physical reflect. They a very deadly combo in that sense. So it's something to consider, but you have to sort of consider the value in terms of, like, he has excellent value on his own, but her value is very much dependent on whether you have Luke and Daredevil built up. As far as the rest of the supports, we only have Medusa. Medusa you should consider heavily if you've invested in Black Bolt, and I'm going to have a video on Black Bolt shortly to show you guys how amazing his new uniform is. But yeah, they pair together well. I know she's a hero and Black Bolt's new uniform is villain, but you can still pair them together in things like GBR. You can still pair them together in certain stages of World Boss Legend, and you can switch back to Black Bolt's old uniform and pair them up for Universal Hero stages. So yeah, she definitely deserves a mention for that. It's a bit of a stretch because she's a much worse support overall than Sif. Like, she literally only buffs Black Bolt because now Miss Marvel's human. She's not inhuman. But you can also use her for the 10-3 stage to clear that dispatch mission that we covered with Black Bolt and then the new uniform and stuff like that, and the level 80 increase. So she has some value there. Otherwise, it's strictly for Black Bolt. So if you don't have Black Bolt, she would be down here, right? So just to be clear, with Black Bolt, I think she's here. Without Black Bolt, she's down there. Actually, no, I lied. With Black Bolt, she's here. Without Black Bolt, she's here because she does have a universal leadership. I forgot about that. She gives all universal allies 45 or 48% attack, depending on whether you have the uniform or not. And then we come to the end here. 3 DPS characters. They are considerably less DPS than Moon Knight when he is at tier 4. So just keep that in mind, that these 3 are, there's like a wide gap. I can't show you the gap physically, and visually, but they're way behind Moon Knight. But they are considerable DPSs, and they can definitely help your account in different ways. And the nice thing is they represent different types, right? You have combat hero, combat villain. You can also go speed villain. You have blast hero, and then you have speed hero. The only difficult thing here with Silk is you have to wait until next summer to pick up her uniform, her summer uniform. By then, it's going to be it's already like a year and a half old, so it's going to be like 2 years old. So it's probably going to be out of the meta by then. So I kind of hesitate to put Silk here with the uniform. If you already have it for whatever reason and you didn't transcend Silk, she is good. She's probably a better or equal DPS to Human Torch. However, again, considering the sort of meta power creep, she's probably going to end up somewhere like here when all is said and done for next year around summertime when you can buy her. But we'll put her here for now with that, you know, that warning, that asterisk label. So this is how it shakes out. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the ranking and who you're going to be choosing for your Transcended Selector. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing, being a member of the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.